biggest shifts in my understanding, my thinking is that I realized that self-betrayal it's not really a dramatic thing. To be really honest, it's not like one big terrible decision. No, self-betrayal is actually in small moments. One ignored instance, one delayed truth. You know, it's just those small moments, those times that you actually don't speak up for yourself when you should. And over time, you stop trusting yourself, you stop believing yourself. And it's because you don't know, it's just because you stop listening to yourself. So you stop listening to what you know. So you no longer trust that you can actually, do what's best for you. It's not because you no longer know, it's just because you no longer listen to yourself and you don't trust yourself to be able to do what you need to do. Self betrayal can be very hard to recognize. And you know why this is very hard to recognize? Because sometimes it seems like patience, so it can look like understanding, it can look like you're trying to avoid conflict, it can look like, you're being easygoing. Those things that seem like okay things, it's okay for you to actually be patient, understanding, empathetic. But self-betrayal hides, it wears a cloak of wisdom, so it makes you seem like, oh, you're just, I'll do it later, I don't have to talk about it now. If I say something, it might upset them, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. Maybe I'm overreacting, all those things. So self-betrayal actually doesn't look like betrayal. It looks sometimes like wisdom, to be really honest. It looks like you're being empathetic and stuff. We negotiate with ourselves more than we negotiate with everyone else. We renegotiate the decisions that we've already made. We renegotiate the standards that we've already set. We even renegotiate like the boundaries that you know that you need. Like you need to actually maintain this boundary, set this boundary. Yet you're still like telling yourself like, oh, maybe I need to bend a little to just accommodate this the situation. And this is it. If it was your friend that was actually renegotiating with themselves and letting you like, oh, this is what I'm bending a little bit, you'd be like, come on, friend, you deserve better than that. But when it comes to our own selves, our own lives, it becomes different because you feel like you don't, for whatever reason. So, and the more you renegotiate with yourself out of your decisions, out of the boundaries that you've already set, the harder it is to actually believe in yourself. I've spoken about how understanding can easily become self-abandonment when you understand people, when you understand context, when you understand why people behave the way they do. These things are, they're strengths. These are good things. But easily can it also be the reason why you're understanding can easily be the reason why you're also delaying action, because you keep asking yourself, oh, why is this person acting this way, or I understand why this person's acting this way, and you keep neglecting and forgetting like, how does this how is this person, how does their action, how do they affect me, and what am I going to do about it? So the question should be about how their actions affect you, not about I understand why they're doing this and I'm hoping that at some point they will actually become a different person. You're supposed to look at how does this drain me right now? How does this affect me right now? And what am I going to do about it? Empathy should help you understand reality, but empathy should not be like a stumbling block. It should not be a road to self-abandonment. It shouldn't be. Most people think that decisions are all about outcomes. Yes, outcomes. But I also believe they're also about relationships. Every decision that you make, you must be able to answer the question like, oh, can I rely on myself? And every time you follow through, every time you are able to act on what you already know, you create evidence. Evidence that you can actually act on what you already know. Evidence that your voice carries weight. Evidence that your standards matter. You create those evidence, and every time you repeatedly ignore what you already know, you're creating evidence for something else. So every time you need to actually be able to say, I can act on what I already know. Self-trust is not built on affirmations. Self-trust is built on history. Why do we betray ourselves? Most times we don't betray ourselves because we don't know. It's not because we don't have enough information or we don't know what to do, we don't know how to act. It's because we know what acting on it will require. We know that it's going to require, losing some relationships. It's going to require discomfort. It's going to require change. It's going to require visibility. It's going to require uncertainty. It's going to require, maybe letting go of an identity of something that you're used to. It's going to require accepting that some things have to come to an end, and those things are usually not, it's not for lack of clarity. It's just the cost of honoring, that's what you have to do to honor, your own standards and what is good for you. So it's not because you don't know, it's because of what acting on it, what is going to change. That's usually like why we struggle with trusting ourselves. The real cost of self betrayal is not just like you stayed in a situation for too long, or you spoke up too late, or you did not, or you lost an opportunity that you couldn't take action on. Not that's cost, but that's not just the only one. The real cost is that you actually lose trust in yourself. Your brain is always learning what kind of behavior, what kind of relationship you have with yourself. So every time you ignore an instinct, every time you delay response, every time you don't actually act on something that you already know, you are teaching your brain, you're teaching yourself that you can't trust in yourself. And that is the real cost. That is the real cost of self betrayal, losing yourself. The journey back to self trust is actually not about confidence, is it's very practical. Self trust is actually built in ordinary moments, in those small promises that you keep to yourself, in those times that you speak your truths, in those times that you act your truth, those times that you follow through, those times that you honor your standards in the ordinary moment, those times that you act on something that you already know. That's how you build self trust. Self trust is not built from one big decision. It's built by honoring yourself, honoring your standards, especially in the ordinary moments. And those small moments, they compound. They make you feel and you trust yourself more and more and more every time you actually honor and you follow through with what you already know. You don't build self trust through one big decision. You build it through repeated, actions for yourself in those ordinary moments. And this is what compounds. So every time you actually honor what you know, you honor your beliefs, you honor your standards, you trust yourself more and more every time. Self honoring isn't selfishness. A lot of people actually fear that when they start to honor themselves, that it's going to make them cold, it's going to make them rigid, it's going to make them difficult or uncaring. But honoring yourself isn't about putting yourself above every other person. Honoring yourself is simply just refusing to disappear from your own decisions. You are not abandoning your own self, your own decisions, your own baseline for the comfort of someone else. You can actually be empathetic without abandoning yourself. You can understand someone without abandoning or negotiating your standards. Do you understand? I don't think self trust is something that you find. I think it's something that you build one decision at a time, one conversation at a time, one boundary at a time, one act of follow through at a time. Because every decision teaches you about the relationship you have with yourself. And over time, that relationship becomes the foundation for everything else. That relationship becomes how you actually respond to everything else. So maybe the question right now is not like, oh, do I trust myself? Is what are my actions? What are they teaching me about myself? And if you don't like that answer, it's a good thing because your next decision, can actually start to teach you something totally new, right? Thank you for sitting with me in this conversation today. If this conversation resonates with you, stay with me. See you next week. Bye.